turn times, the quicker you can get them done, more important now than a year ago when things were hopping.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right. Dustin Harris hanging out with you. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back. If you're coming back, welcome to the program. If you are new to the program, we are sponsored today by Alamode Software. Alamode is the software that I use to write my reports. I have been doing it for many, many years. You should be as well. I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Alamode.com or 800 Alamode. We are sponsored, of course, by SYNAPSE. SYNAPSE is the best way, to come up with proper adjustments for your appraisal reports. Check them out. Go to spark4appraisers.com, spark4appraisers.com. Finally, we are sponsored by Working RE magazine. Love Working RE. Keeps me up to date on everything going on. Check them out. Go to workingre.com. It's really simple. Working RE is in workingrealestate.com. One of the recurring topics on the program the last couple of months has been the volume, has been revenue. And most of you, no surprise here, are down. You're down in revenue. Many things probably playing into that. But I would guess that for most of us, we're seeing a dip because of what the economy is doing. It's not a secret, folks. The interest rates have been raised. When the Fed does its thing, it tends to have it has an effect on the market. And that's what we have seen on a pretty significant basis the last little while. In our own office, I took a look at our stats. We are down from August to September. This, by the way, is being recorded in October. Probably won't be played, I would guess, till November or so. But that's pretty typical. The dip that we saw between August and September is pretty typical for us. We find that most people are done moving for the summer. They're settling in. They're going to school. And there's not a whole lot of activity on the purchase side. But really, it was the purchase side that was kind of floating us for a while through, 2020, 2021. We saw a huge increase in volume. So I like to go back to 2019 as kind of my basis. Take a look, folks, at your month over year, month over month revenue. What I mean by that is take a look at your October 2022 versus October 2021. I'm going to guess most of you are going to see a dip. But really what you should be looking at is October 2022 over October 2019. That is the last year that I would call a quote-unquote normal year, for whatever that means. Now, many of you are going to say, well, Dustin, lots have changed for me in the last few years. I have more people working for me. I'm doing more volume. I'm VA where I wasn't before. Whatever it is, fill in the blank. I get it. I truly do. I understand. But as much as possible, try to minimize those outliers and kind of figure out where you're at. My guess is you're probably down over where you were before. Why is that? Well, again, pretty obvious. Interest rates go up, behavior changes. That's what the Fed is trying to do. As an investor, folks, I'll just tell you, from that side of the table, I'm constantly looking for new investments, real estate investments. And that has been curtailed quite a bit the last couple of months. Now, I can tell you it has not been shut down. I put an offer on a property just a few weeks ago with a 7+% interest rate, but guess what? The number still worked. And that's the key that I want to bring out right in the beginning today. By the way, we're going to be talking about some examples, some case studies. These are real live people that I know very well. My students. I don't have permission to share their information, so I'm just going to allude to them. But stay tuned. I'm going to share with you 3 examples of individuals who are up in volume ever since the interest rates came up. But I can tell you, folks, there are still loans being made. There are still purchases being done. People still have to change cities for jobs. People still take money out of this investment to put it in that investment. There are still loans being done. If you look at the overall market, you'll see that things are down, but folks, there's still thousands and tens of thousands of loans being done all the time. So what's going on with those? Are there still appraisals being done? Well, guess what, folks? Here's another thing I found out through the grapevine. Those things are still being accomplished, and actually more appraisals are being done on a ratio basis than before, where we got into a bit of a conundrum, and the lenders could not get volume out quick enough, could not get appraisals done quick enough. what we saw was that many of them were going to waivers. They were going to desktops. They were going to what some refer to as alternative valuation products. Well, guess what, folks? Believe it or not, and I know many of you will not believe this statement, but I've talked to the powers that be, and I will tell you, believe it or not, banks don't like those things. They don't like to waive appraisals. Well, Dustin, why are they calling for them? Folks, they're calling for them because they would much rather get things done than not at all. So when you got an overwhelming volume in 2020, 2021, then you're going to look for whatever avenue you can to get that thing done and get it out the door, because that's how you make money. They actually would love to have an actual appraisal in the portfolio, believe it or not. And so now that things have slowed down, some of that work that was going to waivers on a ratio basis is now going to appraisals. And there are appraisals being done. There is volume out there to be had. I want to share with you 3 examples of individuals that I know personally, because I've coached them personally, that are actually up in volume and why they're up in volume. Going to pause right here and remind you that we are sponsored by 3 wonderful, great, helpful companies, one of them being Working RE Magazine. Folks, Working RE, yes, they are a magazine in the traditional sense that they send out every quarter, a physical magazine. I love to take that with me when I travel. By the way, I read it when I'm taking off and landing, when you're supposed to turn off your phones. But of course, I also sign up for their free blog. You can find out more by going to their website at workingre.com. One more time, write it down, workingre.com. SYNAPSE. What are you using to make your adjustments, folks? Is it pull crap out of the air? Come on, admit it. You've done that. We've all done it. Stop doing that. Folks, there are great tools out there, and the leader of the pack is a great company, Spark and SYNAPSE. SYNAPSE, of course, is helping you to know what those adjustments should be. Are you guessing at $70 a square foot for your GLA adjustment? Are you guessing at your garage adjustment? Are you guessing at your bedroom bath adjustments? Folks, stop guessing. SYNAPSE will help you to come up with the right number. Check it out by going to sparkforappraisers.com. Again, it's sparkforappraisers.com. And right in the middle of the screen, you click on the Learn More About SYNAPSE button. Alamode, of course, is, they've been helping appraisers for many, many years to be successful. They do this by their integrated smart tools. We're talking about the Smart Adjust. The fact that you can detach the addendum and write it as you go. The worksheet, folks, if you've not used it, Craig Morley has a great video out there on how to use the worksheet. I did a 2-part series with a good friend of mine, Jim Stafford, on my website as to how to really focus on the power of Total and some of the great things that can be done. By the way, you can purchase that on my website. Total has so many built-in things. I'm reminded all the time, people don't even know. Somebody brought it up on our private Facebook page the other day saying, did you know if you hit F2, it will make that adjustment go clear across? Yeah, I knew that. There's a lot of little things like that make all the difference in the world. Check them out. Go to alamode.com, alamode.com. All right, welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with you in the podcast chair. Some of you are down in volume. A lot of us are. But what about those out there who are up in volume? And no, folks, I am not talking about the private work. Private work, for some reason, is up. I don't know if it's because appraisers are focusing more on it, and thus they're convincing their clients that they need the private work, where maybe before we were a little bit more complacent, or there's something else going on. But most of my friends, most of my colleagues, most of my clients, my coaching clients who are doing, a lot of private work tell me that private work is up. Not universal, but in a lot of areas, private work is up. Again, we're not talking today about private work. We're going to talk today about lender work. I'm talking about the dreaded AMC work, right? Or the direct lending work, or however else that you get your lending work. This is the GSE work. This is the FHA work. This is the VA work. This is the, regular conventional loan work. Are there really loans going on right now, Dustin? Yes, we talked about that before the break. I will reiterate here. There's lots of appraisal stuff going on, folks. Lots of valuation work going on. So why are you slow? Well, rather than answer that specifically, since I don't know your specific situation, let me share with you, if I can, an example of 3 different people that I know. Again, I did not reach out to them for permission. We're not going to use we might use a few actual numbers, but we'll round them up a little bit, right? Or down, or what have you. But this will be close. And the reason I do that is I don't want to reveal anybody's identity. I want you to be 100% confident that if you come to Dustin Harris for coaching and mentoring, that I'm not going to share your private information here on the microphone or in my private groups or anything else, right? So we're going to keep these areas completely anonymous. We're going to keep the people, the genders. The genders may have been changed to keep the identity secret. Okay, so let's start going backward. I'm going to share with you 3 different individuals, and these are people that I've done private coaching with, and or they are members of either the All-Star team or the most of these are in Mastermind, because it's the Mastermind we really dig into the numbers here. Okay, I will share this much. The first one that I want to share with you, he, again, may have been changed. He is in the Midwest, okay? Now, when he started seeing things change, say around, I don't know, March, April, May, we started to see a huge increase in interest rates. This is 2022. If you're listening years down the road, this information is still going to be relevant during the next cycle. And by the way, let me just pause and get off in the weeds here just a titch. I promise to get back on track. I will not lose my place. We're talking about the guy in the Midwest, okay? But I want to say this. Folks, lending is, brace yourself, sit down. Okay? This is going to come as a shock to many of you. Lending is cyclical. What does that mean, Dustin? Well, that means it goes up and it goes down. That means that we have some good months and some bad months. That means we have some good years and some bad years. That means we might have a couple of years. Yes, I said it. A couple of years that might be quote unquote bad years until things recover. Those of us who have been in this business more than a couple of decades have seen multiple cycles. Now, notice what I said there. In the last couple of decades, multiple cycles. Folks, things change that much, which should give you hope. For those of you who are like, oh my gosh, I was so busy in 2021 and now I'm not. What am I going to do? I think I better go look for another job. Well, maybe you should. And we did talk about that. Was it last week or the week before, right? But the key here, folks, is be patient, right? And even more so, these examples that I'm going to give you is there are things you can be and should be doing right now, okay, to help the volume. You don't have to sit back and let things happen. One of the most frustrating things is to be on social media and read some of the comments from these appraiser-sauruses who are doing absolutely blanking nothing about their situation except getting on Facebook and complaining about their situation. They have more time to complain about their situation than get busy changing their situation. You know what I'm talking about, okay? So let me give you 3 examples of people who are doing something about it. Now, all of these don't necessarily work for you, but I'm giving you some ideas of things you can work on that I promise you work. I promise you work. Now, one of these things might work better for you than another thing. A combination of several of these things is most likely going to work better than several other things. And by the way, I would hearken back to the last couple of months. We've actually visited this topic in various different degrees on this very program. Folks, go back and listen to some of the things that I've shared with you. Some of the things that you can be doing, touches, right? Fostering those relationships. Yes, even with AMCs. Yeah, there's actually people that work at AMCs that care about relationships. I know, it's crazy, but it happens. All right, back to our guy. I told you I wouldn't get lost. We're talking about the guy in the Midwest. Folks, I'll tell you what he did. It seems pretty simple, and maybe it's difficult. I don't know. I've done it before. About June-ish, when he saw the trend creeping upward, guess what he did? He expanded his territory. He expanded it not just 1 county, but 2 counties. Now, in the Midwest, that's kind of a big deal. That could be a long way. So instead of driving 30 minutes, 45 minutes from his house/office, he now goes twice that, an hour, hour and a half. Again, some of these numbers are made up, but I can tell you he's driving significantly more than he was before. Now, how does he do that? Dustin, I can't afford to go 2 hours one way and then come back and get another order in that area and go back 2 days later. Okay, then don't. I'm telling you it's working for him. One of the things that I've done for many years is I have areas and I have days that I work those areas. So, for example, I only go to Jackson Hole on Thursdays. And it's worked for me. I haven't lost that many orders. Now, am I doing things a little bit differently now? Yeah, our office is sometimes going to Twin Falls, which is about a 2.5 hour one-way drive twice in a week. Why? Because our clients need it. They demand it. And by the way, we're going to come back to that in just a little bit when I talk about the third person today. But what Midwest guy is doing is expanding his territory. Oh, by the way, he also got on the VA list finally. And by the way, he did that by expanding his territory, by going to a county that was not heavily covered. Not that they didn't have coverage, but they didn't have a lot of coverage in that particular area. And consequently, he squoze in there and he's been doing very well. In other words, his overall volume and yes, his overall revenue. And that is, by the way, subtracting out his costs. Well, Dustin, he takes a lot of gas. Have you seen gas prices lately? Folks, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to do to get the work? Now, some of you are going to say, well, Dustin, that doesn't work for me. I'm surrounded by appraisers. Stay tuned. I've got 2 other people to talk about. But guy number 1, Midwest guy, we'll call him, expanded his territory. And as a consequence, yeah, he's up in volume, he's up in revenue. All right. Female. Metro gal. We'll call her Metro gal. Okay, Metro gal, her fees are down. Okay, her fees are down. Her volume and, catch this, her revenue is up. 2 things that she did was she adjusted her fees 20%. Now, notice she's in metro area. For her to expand her territory is difficult because I will tell you this. I'll tell you this much about the metro area. You know what? What the hell? I'll tell you it's California. It's Southern California. Let's put it that way, okay? I don't think that outs anybody. There's a lot of appraisers in Southern California. But Metro Gal, reduced her fees by 20%. Okay, she did one other thing, stay tuned. But she did not expand her territory because it didn't make any sense. Because she's smack dab in metro area. Okay, we'll call it LA, right? If she expanded to another territory, she's not helping her volume. What she's doing is now competing with other appraisers, different appraisers in those surrounding counties. Okay, so for her, Midwest guy and his style didn't work. By the way, for Midwest guy, I don't know that Metro gal's style would work. Okay, fees down 20%. I didn't say 50%, right? I didn't say 75%. I said 20%. Could you? Now be careful here, folks. Don't throw eggs at me. I'm sorry. You guys that get on social media and say, oh my gosh, don't drop the fees. It just reduces us as a profession. Okay, dude, whatever. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not talking about reducing your fees by 50%. I'm not talking about bottom of the barrel scraping. I'm talking about adjusting for what's going on in the marketplace. By the way, this would not be and was not my first recommendation to her. I want to make that clear. One of the last things that I look at are fees. I really don't. I know you think I'm crazy when I say this, but I've talked to enough people at enough AMCs to know that is one of the last things they look at. I know that flies in the face of every one of you on social media who say that they're just looking for the cheapest appraiser. There might be a few AMCs out there that are like that. I don't work for them. Now, is there some room for adjustment for some? Well, Metro Gal did it. Now, there's one other thing that she did as well. And this might actually be more important than the squeaky wheel, but I'll tell, editor, let's back up. Now, there is one other thing that she did as well. Now, this may be, in fact, probably is related to number one, the number one reason why she is increased in revenue. Okay, not decreased fees, increased revenue, right? There's key. You guys know the difference between those two words, right? Okay, all right. But the other thing that she did was become the squeaky wheel. What does that mean? Folks, that just means she is spending some time, just like we did in the olden days, contacting her clients and talking to them and building relationships with them. And it's not too late, by the way, to do this. That's what she's doing. As a consequence, she found out by conversation what she needed to do. And one of the things that one of the AMCs, or maybe two of the AMCs, said was, hey, if you would adjust your fees slightly, I could give you more volume. So she looked at her numbers, and she and I met together, and we looked at her numbers, and we crunched some numbers, and we looked at her P&L. We looked at her expenses, both her soft and her hard costs. This is what coaching will do for you, folks. And we were able to figure out, you know what, a 20% adjustment in fees is not going to break the bank as far as your expenses go. So let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. You can always change it if it doesn't work. I know, some of you just already turned off the pod. What? Adjusting fees? Oh my gosh. Turning this. I'm going to go listen to somebody else. She adjusted her fees 20%, folks, but more importantly, she's the squeaky wheel. She's talking frequently with her clients, and she's getting to know them better, and she's having these conversations like, what do I need to do to be more busy? Well, we're just slow. That's what they're going to tell you, folks. They're going to tell you that they're slow. Okay, fine. Don't take the first answer. Okay? Ask additional questions. You with me? You know what I'm saying here, right? I understand you're slow. Everybody's slow, but what can I do to be your top appraiser? That's the next question. All right, number one. I say number one. I know it's number three, but on my list, this was number one. This is the first person I thought about when I thought about doing a podcast on how do you increase your revenue. Okay, we're going to call this guy Rural Guy. Okay, Rural Guy. Rural Guy is in a similar market to myself. I'll tell you what my market's like. Okay, I've got a city called Idaho Falls / Ammon that has about 80,000 people in it. I've got another city about an hour south of here, Pocatello. It's an old Indian word. And there's about 65,000 people on average in that area. Pocatello, Chubbuck. If you include Chubbuck, you're probably around 70,000. Okay. Those are my quote unquote metro areas. Okay. Everything else around, I mean, we're talking Blackfoot has like 12,000 people in it. Rexburg has like, 15,000 people in it. Mostly I'm surrounded by little towns of anywhere from 300 people. Yes. Believe it or not, I appraise in towns of 300 or less people up to, let's call it 3,000 to 4,000 people. Okay, lots of little towns spread out all over that I need to drive to, that sometimes comps come from other cities, sometimes 50, 75 miles away. Yes, believe it or not. Okay, that's the kind of rural market that I work. Now, this individual in a similar market to me is actually up 17% year over year. So his September 2022 is up almost 20%. So 17%, we'll call it 15 to 20%, right? It's up from September 2021. Well, wait a minute, Dustin, 2021, that was a banner year. Yeah, folks, he is up 17% from the same time last year. Well, Dustin, he must have added an appraiser or two. No, he added no appraisers. He's still the only signer of the report. Now, has he added staff? Yes. Is his payroll increased? Yes. Has it increased 17%? No. Okay, and here's the key, right? He's doing more volume and he is getting paid more, meaning he's bringing things home. No, Dustin, how's that even possible? What is he doing? Did he buy a helicopter and he can get to these properties faster? What's he doing? Folks, it's very simple. I can boil it down. Now, he's doing several things, by the way. He's doing some of the other things that we talked about. I don't think he's increased any territories, but I do know he's being the squeaky wheel. I know he's not decreased his fees, and that's key, right? The one thing that he is doing that most of us are not, and this is the key, folks, he has decreased significantly his turn time. A year ago, he was doing things in about 2 to 3 weeks. Now, a year ago, his colleagues were doing things in about 4 to 8 weeks. Okay, I'm not kidding. Those are real numbers. His peers were doing things in 4 to 8 weeks. Let's call them 6 weeks. He was doing things in 2 weeks. Okay, so he's doing them in about a third of the time. That was key for him to building up his volume, building up his clientele. Key. Okay, now what's going on? Well, right now, his colleagues are 1 to 2 weeks out. He is 1 to 2, ready? Days out. I'm not joking, folks. I've seen his numbers. I've seen his system. I know what's going on. These are real numbers. This is not made up for a coaching call. Okay, I've been in his numbers. When you do coaching with me, folks, we get really intimate about our numbers. Okay, and I've been in his numbers, and I'm telling you, folks, he is. Now, when I say 1 to 2 days, I'm talking about after the inspection. Okay, 48 hours. His goal is 48 hours after the inspection. I will have the report turned in. So if he gets an order on Monday and say he can't schedule it till Wednesday because it's a rural area, he's still going to have that thing turned by Friday. Which means, yeah, so his turn time from start to finish is 5 business days. Are you doing that? Well, Dustin, I didn't think turn time was very important anymore. I know it was important before because everybody was slow, but folks, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you, turn times are as, if not more important than they were a year ago. Let me repeat that again for emphasis. Turn times, the quicker you can get them done, more important now than a year ago when things were hopping. There you have it, folks. 3 different people, real people. The names, well, I didn't give you any names. Well, I did. I give you a rural guy, metro gal, and Midwest dude, okay? Real people, real results. Question for you. What are you doing to increase your volume? What are you doing to increase your revenue? I hope, folks, that you'll take some time to work on your business this week. As you listen to this, schedule time. Get to your computer right now. Friday morning, 8 a.m. Schedule an hour for yourself, right? I'm in a meeting, folks. You don't even have to tell them what you're doing. I've got a meeting from 8 to 9. I cannot be bothered, whether it be family, friends, or your staff. This is time for you, only time, on it, not in it time. Take some time to look at your numbers. Take some time to re-listen to this episode. Find out what you can be doing, because I promise you there is revenue out there to be had, even in a slow market. If you would like to have some personal coaching and help you through this process, of course, I am available. Reach out to me, the coach, at theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.